Hey guys, DB Smiley here. Today we're talking about story mode Coratanni. Coratanni is the final fight in Ravagers. This fight is fairly straightforward. This is going to be from the bird tank perspective. Here's a rough layout of the room. Those orange squares up at the top are the fire suppression units, and we'll talk about how we're going to use them here. So, as I said, I am the Pearl tank, that is bird tank. Bird does a AoE that you just saw there, green AoE. You want to make sure it's directed away from the raid. We keep ranged and one healer and a tank on Pearl, and tank it over on this side of the room and keep it separate from Coratanni. They do have a buff where if they're within range of each other, they power each other's moves up. The bird is very annoying, the tank. Occasionally, and it should do it here soon, the bird is going to become untauntable. As you can just see here, when the bird's untauntable, it picks the 4 closest targets to it, it runs to them, and it knocks them back. You want to move back because you want to make sure that the people on bird team stay within the 4 closest people on Pearl, otherwise it will swap to melee. What we just see here is a fire suppression. That's what happens when you hit the fire suppression console. There's a raid-wide debuff that goes out. All 8 people in the raid will get a fire debuff, as you saw there. You hit the fire. When you get that, you hit the fire suppression system, step into the blue circle, and step out. You don't want to stand in the blue circle. And I'll point out the next time the fire debuff comes up so you can kind of see the timing there. This is deck guns. Occasionally a ship fires on yours. As you can see, a bunch of people got hit by it. It knocks back and does a ton of damage. Now you can just see we got the fire dot again. Someone hit the suppression droid. I stepped in, I stepped out and cleansed it. I also have a corrosive grenade dot on me. This is uncleansable and just must be healed through. Now Pearl does drop aggro after it does its untauntable phase. So you're going to need to have your taunt ready to, as soon as you see that debuff disappear where it becomes tauntable again, you want to taunt it. As you can see, I do right there to bring it back to me. That's because it does do that AoE arc afterwards. The Coratanni tank is mostly a turret tank. Coratanni does not move much. You just want to turn it away from other people. Coratanni doesn't move around much. The only time she drops aggro is after Ricochet shot. There is a hard mode mechanic that seems more complicated for Ricochet shot. However, I'm not familiar with that at this time, as I haven't gotten to hard mode Coratanni yet. So this pretty much just repeats. We want to try to DPS down Coratanni and Pearl relatively evenly. We want Pearl maybe to be a little bit ahead. I'm thinking that next time we do this fight, we're actually going to switch and put the melee DPS on Pearl and put the ranged on Coratanni. This is because Pearl is proximity-based aggro, and it's much more mobile, which is beneficial to reduce the generally not having as many cast times as melee. So we're getting close to the end of this phase now, and once Coratanni reaches 20%, she's going to run to her escape pod, and it turns into a burn phase on Pearl. We're actually going to, you can see, pull Shadow Clone off of Coratanni onto Pearl just to try to push Pearl a little bit more, since Coratanni got a bit ahead on DPS due to all the knockbacks. So Coratanni is now running to her escape pod. At this point you can ignore her. Don't worry about damaging her. She disappears. It becomes a burn phase on Pearl. Pearl will still do her anger phase where she targets the 4 closest people and knocks them down. You have to taunt her back afterwards. Pearl quickly enrages after Coratanni disappears, so it becomes a burn phase in that respect. As you can see right now, Pearl is both enraged and untauntable, which is not a great position to be in. I failed to taunt Pearl back here when she becomes no longer taunt immune, and that's how Coot gets killed. But, all told, that's phase 1. Not very difficult. Just avoid AoEs, handle the fire dot, and keep the 2 bosses separated. From here, and we're taking some time to revive Coot before we move across, you move to Ruger's ship. Ruger is the ship that's been firing on yours, causing the deck guns. When you spawn in, you're going to get some ads. These ads are not troublesome at all. They don't do a lot of damage. I'm pretty sure these ads are just here to prevent you from leaving combat. That way you can't use out-of-combat abilities. Also, just to prevent you from pulling the boss as soon as you get over here. So as soon as these ads are dead, Ruger's going to jump to me. I believe Ruger jumps to whoever Pearl is aggroed on. when Pearl dies. Ruger is pretty straightforward. You're going to see I get a stack of a debuff called Corrosive, well, it looks like Corrosive Dart here. When I get 2 stacks, that's when we want a tank swap. Ruger does an attack called, that's very similar to Cull, where the more stacks you have of that debuff, the more damage it does. So we can swap at 2 stacks on story mode. There you can see an explosive droid just came out and moved the Shadow Clone. It does pause before it blows up, so you can move out of its range. It does do a fair amount of damage. The attack to watch out for with Ruger, which he'll do right there, that attack he grabbed Punk and Drublick. If we continued to damage Ruger there, the damage would have gone to Punk and Drublick. So you want to make sure that you're watching for that raid warning, and all DPS stops damage as soon as Ruger jumps to someone. Otherwise, it's pretty much just repeat mechanics. Keep him moving so that way melee doesn't get stuck in the mines. The mines blow up in AoE damage, as well as they stun whoever gets caught in them. Ruger's going to repeat that grab mechanic a total of 3 times in this fight. It appears to be about 75%, 50%, and 25%. So I'm going to fast forward now to the end of the fight, just because, you know, there's really nothing else to talk about here. It's pretty tank and spanky. He's almost there, and there he just jumped to that center console, and he's crashing a ship. Everyone just needs to run over to the escape pod and click it. You have 15 seconds to do so, so plenty of time. The bar on the escape pod is the cast time is longer than the timer on crashing the ship, but that's fine. That's just by design. I think the devs just wanted to add some drama. After that, you'll end up on this nice little island here with a loot missile, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Take care.